Hey guys, welcome back. Laz is here again for Vertices Plus, and in this part of the Wally tutorial we're going to go ahead and actually start creating the threads. So as you can tell, I moved forward a little bit just so I can show you guys what we're going to be creating in the next couple of parts. So we're going to create one thread piece at a time, and then we're going to go ahead and duplicate it all the way around, and we're going to go ahead and add these joint pieces in afterwards, which is basically just they basically look like this just to simplify a little bit, because I didn't want to make this piece too complicated, but at the end of it, it looks pretty good. Okay, so this is what we're going to be creating in the next couple of parts. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And now I'm just going to go up to edit, delete all by type history, and if you noticed, we were at about 2.5 million polygons at that time, so he's going to be quite heavy, not too heavy hopefully, so you shouldn't have too many performance issues, especially if you're going to go ahead and put everything on a layer. We can go ahead and hide the things that we don't need, just to save performance in the viewport. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I just hid everything so you get a better view of what we're doing. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create one of the thread pieces that we're going to go ahead and duplicate all the way along. Now if we do read this later on, we would create this differently, so we'd only need one thread piece at a time, and then we would go ahead and use a script to pull it around the curve and make it so we can animate it as well. But for modeling reasons at the moment, we're just going to go ahead and create one piece and then duplicate it all the way around so we get an idea of how this is going to look like. Okay, but if we go ahead and rig this later on, then we'll obviously recreate this part a little bit differently. So anyway, I thought I'll give you a little bit of insight to how that would work. So let's go ahead and start creating the first thread piece. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to go ahead and start with a cube, and I'm going to drag it to around here, roughly staying in the middle of them white lines, and then I'm going to drag out height as well, and then we're just going to go ahead and move it. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the width is right, like so. I'm going to go back into my side view, and I'm just going to move these around a little bit. So for this piece, I'm going to go to the outside of the white line, because we're going to line these up with the reference once we go ahead and duplicate them around and everything. Okay, so you should have something like this. And then the first thing we're going to do is this has a little extrusion, so we're going to go ahead and add that in. So I'm just going to go ahead and tear off my edit mesh panel again, and then go to my insert edge loop tool in the options, and I'm going to go ahead and check in multiple edge loops, and we're going to add in 2. Okay, so now I can just click on this edge and add in 2. And then once I have that, I'm going to set this back to where it was, and then just use my scale tool and drag these out. Okay, and this way they should be at the same place on both ends. So I do have another reference image that I'm using on the side on my other screen, just to make sure that this looks somewhat right. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude this piece, and we're going to drag it out just a tiny bit. Okay, like so. So once we have this, there is actually 2 holes that we're going to cut in here, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to use our insert edge loop tool again, and I'm going to set it to 1, and multiple edge loops line equal multiplier, and just select it in the middle, and this way it will cut the it will put it exactly in the middle. And then go ahead and set 2, and probably, let me just look at my reference, that should be right. Okay, so our 2 holes will be around there. So So now that I have that, I can go ahead and actually we're going to leave this in, and this is where our hole going to be. So it looks like a bit of a mess at the moment, but we're going to go ahead and get this sorted in a bit, so don't worry about that too much for now. So I think it's easier if you only work on one side, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and we're going to go ahead and only work on this piece, okay? So I think we're also going to have to go ahead and move this edge loop just a bit, and I think we're going to have to go ahead and have our cut somewhere along here. I'm just looking at my reference on my other screen as well to make sure that we kind of get this at the right place, and this should be okay. So we're going to have our our hole cut in here, okay? The way you're going to do this is, there are many different ways you could do this, but we're going to do it by adding in loops. So I'm going to, if I reset my edge loop tool, like so, we're going to go ahead and add in a couple of loops where our hole is going to be, okay? So I'm going to add one in here, and one in around here, and then I'm going to need 2 loops. So I'm going to go to my insert edge loop tool, multiple loops, and make sure I got 2 selected, and then click in here, and then I'm going to set this back and then just use my scale tool to move these apart. Okay, so roughly something like that. Looks good. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and extrude this face down, and then we're going to make our cut. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this down, just extrude it downwards a little bit, and basically our hole is going to be sitting inside here. So there's this little indentation, probably not even this deep, it's probably around that deep, and then our actual cutout is sitting inside this little indentation. So we're going to have to go ahead and add in the loops for that as well. So at the moment I'm not thinking about the loops that we're going to need for when we do the support edges. So try to keep that out of your mind at the moment so it doesn't confuse you, and that way hopefully it will go a little bit easier, because we're going to have quite a few edges around here. Alright, so basically now that we have our place to put our hole, I'm actually going to move this edge up a little bit like so, and this is going to be our hole, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and extrude this downwards like so, and probably not that much, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my insert edge loop tool again, multiple edge loops but only one this time, and I'm going to put it on here because we're basically going to cut this in half again. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and select these bottom faces and delete them, and I'm also going to go ahead and select this face and delete that. Okay, so now we can go ahead and duplicate this. Now make sure you have scale and then y-1, so this way it will flip everything. And now we can go ahead and select these two, go to mesh and then combine. Okay, and we're going to go into our front view and go to your vertex mode and select all of these in the middle and go to merge vertices, and probably about 0.5 threshold should do. We don't have too many edges too close together, and actually that was too much, so we're going to go ahead and undo that, and we're going to go ahead and use a 0.05 threshold and see if that works. That's too little. Let's try 7.5. That's too little. So let's try 0.01. Too little. 2.5, and there we go. Okay, so that worked. Right, so I'm just gonna check around the mesh, make sure that this looks all good, and it is. Right, so once we have that, we're just gonna select this, and it seems like the history is already deleted, but just to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and go to delete all by type history, and there we go, it wasn't. And now we can go ahead and delete this loop in the middle, because we're not really going to need it, I don't think. So the next step will be is obviously merge these two together, and we're just going to go ahead and use our merge vertex tool. So I'm going to drag up from here to there, from here to there, same thing on this side, and then we can go ahead and get rid of this edge around here, like so. Okay, so we got our hole cut in, we got our little indentation cut in, this little bit has done it as well, and now all we gotta do is obviously duplicate this over as well to get the other side. So again, duplicate, make sure you're on scale, and then we're going to do an x-1 this time, and it's all the way over there. So I'm just going to go ahead in my front view, go to modify center pivot, and I'm going to go ahead and move this where it needs to be. Okay, so pretty close together. Select both of them, go to mesh, combine, and then go to your vertices mode, select all of those, merge vertices. Hopefully the threshold that we set earlier is fine, and it seems to be spot on. Okay, great. So we basically got most of our thread created, and before we go ahead, and you've probably seen the little studs that come out of this, before we go ahead and add them, we're going to go ahead and add in all the edge loops that we need, and then we'll go ahead and add all the studs and so on to it. So let's go ahead and see where we should start this. We'll probably start in this corner. So I'm going to use insert edge loop tool, just make sure that I got the right settings, and we're going to go ahead and start in this corner. Okay. I don't want these edges to be too tight, so I'm not gonna add double loops in, and I'm gonna leave it fairly far away from the edges, so we should get a good highlight on it when the light hits it. Okay, so that corner looks pretty good. So I'm gonna start doing outside first, and I'll work my way in, and hopefully I won't miss anything. So now I'm moving on to this bit. Okay, so again the usual, adding in the edge loops jobby, and now I'm just going to work my way around this side, make sure that everything's fine here. I think I might have missed that loop on this end. No, I haven't. Oh yeah, I have. There we go. So here we go. Let's do this corner as well. You might think that adding in edge loops is pretty difficult. You shouldn't do by now, after we've done so many. I remember the time when I first started modeling, and instead of adding in edge loops, I tried to bevel all the edges with like many segments, and trust me, that was a lot of pain. So compared to that, adding edge loops is not that bad, trust me. So what I'm actually gonna do, I think, is to speed things up. I think I'm gonna go ahead and delete this half again, like so, and that way I only go add in the edge loops for this piece, and then just duplicate it over. So sorry about that. So let's go ahead and start adding in the loops for this. Okay, insert edge loop, so we're going to need one here. And I'm trying to think for this bit, because it's a little bit complicated, I'm trying to think at one edge at a time. So I'm thinking about this edge, I've done that side of it, so now I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to need the inner side, so there will be one that I need around here. Okay, and then now I'm thinking, okay, so this edge is done, I'm going to go ahead and move on to this edge. So I'm thinking, okay, it's going to need an edge around here, and it's going to need an edge going around this side as well. Okay, and this way you shouldn't miss out so much edges. So now I'm thinking about this edge. I already got one on the left side, so now I'm going to go ahead and add one onto this side. And now I'm thinking, right, that edge is done, that edge is done, that edge is done, so the only one that's left for that rectangle is this. So it got one on the right, so now I'm moving on to the left. Okay, so this is what you should be thinking. And then now I'm thinking, okay, so this rectangle is basically completed, and I'm now going to go ahead and move on to the next one. So I'm thinking about this edge, it's going to need one going one around here, and it seems like it's got one on the inner side. Alright, so that's done, and now I'm again going around this corner, thinking that one got it on the right, so I'm going to need it on the left. Same with these bottom ones, these are completed. So I think this is the last one. That has one, that has one, and it's going to need one going around here. It's going to need one going around here. I think we might have missed this one. No, we haven't. Okay, great. So basically the outer rim edges are done. So now we only got to do these inner ones. So let's go ahead and do them. So I'm going to need one going around here, here, and on the inner bit. It's also going to need one here and here. Okay, so that's pretty good. Let's move on to this corner. Already has one there. You're going to need one here. So yeah, it does get a lot easier after you do it for a while. You'll still probably miss the loops or some of them, but it doesn't really matter because you'll spot them once you go ahead and smooth it, so it should be alright. Definitely just by doing this tutorial, my adding in edge loop skills have improved drastically. So the more modeling you do, the easier this is going to get, okay? So don't worry about it too much if you still find it difficult. So this is going to need one here, and this is a time when I normally sing. Well, I did at the beginning of the series. I think I might stop doing that. And now I'm just checking on the bottom side, but it should be fine. We could again go ahead and duplicate bits over, but I don't really want to do that. So it looks like it's looking pretty good, or it seems like. Hopefully it will be alright. Let's go ahead and smooth it and just see what happens. Right, so that looks really nice for first look. Okay, so we don't get any issues around here, no issues around there. The corners look nice. Let's go ahead and look at the bottom. That looks pretty good as well. Maybe this bit looks a little bit soft. Just have a look at this bit. It seems to be okay. Right, I think we're done. I think that looks pretty good, so let's just have another quick look. Okay, that looks great. I think we can go ahead and duplicate this over. So let's go ahead, x minus 1, find where it is. It's all the way down there, so I'm just going to go to modify, center pivot, go into my front view, and this time we're going to go ahead and line this up really close because of all the edge loops that we added in. Okay, so that should be close enough. So I'm just going to unsmooth both, select both, mesh combine, go to my vertex mode, select all of them, and I think we're going to need a lower one than that, probably 0.1, 0.05. Let's see how that's looking. Basically what you're looking for now is that it has merged the vertices like around here, and it seems like it didn't, so that's great, we're done. Now I'm just going to go back here, smooth this, and it's looking great. Alright, so actually we are getting an issue around here, so let's just go ahead and undo this, and we're going to need a little bit less than that. Let's try 0.01, and that was too little. 0.02. Okay, that seemed to be, wow, that seemed to have worked for half of them. These bits are still not merged. Let's try 0.04. Right, that seems to be too much. So what we're going to have to do is we're actually going to have to move these even closer. And even if that doesn't work, we're going to have to manually merge them all, which is going to be a pain. I'm now just trying to undo this so I can move these a little bit even closer. That's too close. Okay, so that might be okay. The reason why we got this problem is because the gap in between these two is actually too big. I mean too small. So I think I'll try to move this even closer. I might just go ahead and snap it in a minute. That way it will definitely be right. That looks pretty close. There's still a gap, so let's go ahead and try it now. Let's select both of them, mesh combine. And I'm actually going to go ahead and delete the history. Select all of these, merge vertices, and let's try 0.03. And hopefully okay, that didn't work either. So we're gonna have to go ahead and merge some of these by hand. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use the merge vertex tool. If I find it, there we go. And gonna start merging these together. only the ones that are like really close. So like these ones as well. So these are the problem. And there seems to be an issue here. There we go. Okay, and let's do the same thing here. Oops. Well, we might as well just do it all by hand if we're already here. So that's what we're gonna do. You can also do merge to center. So I can go ahead and select these two merge vertices, merge to center. That will do just fine as well. Oops. And obviously make sure that you only have the two selected that you want. So now let's do it quickly on the bottom. Oh, by the way, if you're thinking how I'm doing it, it's shift, right click, merge vertices to center, okay? So, just in case you didn't know the shortcut. Whoops, that's one too many. And it's a bit of a pain to zoom in all this way because they're so small. Okay, we should be nearly done. So go to this end. Right, we're nearly done. We're nearly there. I know it's a little bit of a pain to do it. Oops, to do it this way, but gotta do what you gotta do. Right, so two more. And these are fairly quick because they're not so close to each other. Only thing with doing it merge to center is that you can select other vertices behind that you don't want to, so hopefully you don't do that. Right, so I think we merged everything. We'll realise that once we go ahead and smooth it and there isn't a hole or anything. Okay, so that's great, we're actually done. And this turned out to be a bit longer than I expected. So yeah, we got this piece created as well. So in the next part, we're going to go ahead and add in the studs for the thread, and the first thread piece will be done, and all we got to do is go ahead and duplicate it around. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next part.